Today we start Tesvav on the Bais on the bottom, which is 15b. And then yours it's 15b3. Amen. So we'll dedicate our learning in the schus of those meter for Shlema that are injured. Yesterday we learned if someone chefs with a knife that's attached. We started with the Mishnah that if the rock is attached to the quarry, so we said that there was a machlekes between Rabbi and Rabbi, where Rabbi says that b'di'evet it's kosher, and Rabbi says that it's pasul. Hey, welcome back.
Thank you.
So then we said that how are we going to fit this with the brisa that seems to say it's mutar l'chadchila. We ended up saying that Rabbi also holds that it's mutar b'di'evet, that it's kosher b'di'evet. The only thing is that when does Rabbi say that it's pasul? That's if it's always been attached, if it's naturally attached to the quarry. But if it was detached, it was a rock, let's say, it was detached, and then you reattached it or something, so that would be mutar b'di'evet. Now the Gemara asks, where do we know that Rebbe makes this difference? We're talking about something that's attached to the ground, that there should be a difference if it's the shechita that's done, if it's kosher or not. If it's always attached, it means if it's naturally attached, or if it was removed and then reattached. Where do we get that from? Yeah? Follow what's happening here? Something that was naturally attached to the ground, or if it was removed and reattached. That's going to be a difference. Where do we know that from? What's the source for that? We use this to answer a contradiction, but where do we know that that's actually a valid answer? Maybe all things that are attached are attached. It doesn't matter if it was removed and then. The Tanya was taught in a brisa. Hashechet b'muchani, someone that shechs with a wheel. It means that the knife was put onto a wheel, and as he rolls the wheel, it shechts the animal, the bird or whatever is there. It says shchitas ksheira. That's valid. B'mechuber lekarka, let's say he shechs with something that's attached to the ground. Shchitas ksheira. It says that it's valid. Okay. Let's say he attaches a knife to the wall. The knife is embedded in the wall, and then he shechts, so it's kosher. That's valid. Let's say there was a rock that's coming out of the wall, and he's going to shecht on that sharp rock, or there's a reed that's growing naturally. He's going to shecht on that, and he uses that to shecht. Shchitasi psula, it's not valid. So now we have kashana adadi. We have a contradiction in the same brisa. We're exactly on the top of 16a. Top words. The contradiction is that originally we said b'mechuber lekarka, if it's attached to the ground, we said that it's valid. Then we said that if we have a rock that's in the wall, we said that it's not valid. So how do you have both of them? From this it tells me that Shani ben Mechuber Meikari B'Talashul B'Seif Chibrei Shma Mina. What we were talking about at the beginning, Mechuber Lekarka, that's attached to the ground, that's because you attached it to the ground. Like for example, you stuck a knife in the wall and you made it attached, so that's going to be valid, b'di'evet. But if it's naturally attached to the ground, it's still, the rock was still in the quarry, and it just is sharp, so then that's not going to be valid. That's going to be, that's the proof that there is such a distinction, even according to Rabbi, or there is such a distinction, and then we can use this to answer Rabbi.
The reed that grows naturally from the ground, that's sharp.
Right.
That's kosher?
That's not valid.
That's invalid.
That's invalid. That's our distinction.
Yeah.
Once you take it out and you put it back in, so that's different. Okay. Amar Mar.
Ayatzur Yetzim Menachem is arguing with the opinion before that says it's okay. Before it said that it was okay.
Yeah. Vakol Sheikh ben Betzur ben Beschuches. We said
The
kan
Mishnah-
betalosh, kan b'mechuber. Did we say that could be Reb Chia? If it says lechatchila, then that could be a
L'kol shechtim b'tol shom v'churma.
bakol sheichtim. Okay,
I'm telling you,
you're right. That could be Reb Chia, and it also could be that it was Talashal b'seif chivrei. Because we have two ways of answering it. Even according to Rabbi, no, according to Rabbi, it can't be lechatchila. That can't be. So
I'm
Talashal
talking
b'seif
about
chivrei.
this brisa is contradicting the other one.
Okay,
It's a difference of opinion,
right.
whatever it is. Why don't
Okay.
they go to finding out who said it? Or?
Well, no, the Gemara did that before. We said that's what we quoted. Right after that, we said, "Hasheichet b'mechubel karka Rabbi Pais Reb Chia machsher." Not kind of like machsher
I'm talking
b'chia.
about this one, the last one you just read. Kasha Adode.
Hasheichet b'mechani.
Yeah.
So why don't we try to? We're taking this in Rabbi.
Okay.
We already established that Reb Chia would say that it's mutal chatchila, and why did Reb Chia say only a din b'di'evet, that he's machshers, because he's trying to tell me the chiddush of Rabbi, that Rabbi was even paisel b'di'evet, so Reb Chia just continued that and said that it's kosher. Okay, the master said, we said that this is when we quote a brisa, you see Amar Mar, and we're re-examining a brisa. A sheichet b'muchani, if someone that shechs with a wheel, shchitas ksher, it's valid. The Gemara asks, "V'hatanya shchitas psula." We have a contradicting brisa that says that it's not valid. Leikasha, it's not a problem. Habasarna de pachra, habasarna de maya. There's two types of wheels. There's a wheel of a potter, that they can use their foot, or they can spin it, and then they. I don't know when the foot was when they had that, but or it could be that it's a water wheel, that it's being turned by water. So if it's being turned, if you're turning it, so then that should be valid. But if it's being turned by water, you're not doing that at all, so then that's not going to be valid. And as it says later, Rashi quotes that if there's a knife that falls and it shechs while it's falling, it's not valid, because you need to actually do the shchita.
But if you threw the knife-
That's a different story.
That's
V'zavachta v'achalta. You shecht and you can eat, but it has to be you have to shecht it. So if it's a water wheel, it's being turned by the water power pressure. So then it's that won't be valid. Viba yasema. If you want, I could say another answer. Hava habasana demaya. They're both water wheels. V'leikash, it's not a problem. Haba kayach rishon, haba kayach sheni. See, the way the water wheel would work was that you needed to direct the water, or to open the valve, or something to get the water to the wheel to start. You could divert the water this way or that way. If you turn it this way, so then it goes to the wheel and it turns the wheel. So right when you open up the water to start to flow, so that's your doing. After that, the water goes on its own. So if it shechs on that first initial gush of water, so that's that first turn that it does. So that's kayach rishon. So that's considered that you did it. But then afterwards, when you just leave it, that's already not your doing. That's the water just flowing. That's why when they, if you don't have a cup and you need to wash your hands, and you're in these bathrooms, you push it, you turn it, or whatever, the water, you don't have a cup. So they want to use kayach rishon. That means from right when you open it, that first gush is what you did. After that, it just continues to go. So, but the kayach rishon is different. That's considered that you did. Okay. B'chihad Amar of Papa, we take this. This is a Gemara that takes it to the same thing, but it's just this totally different case. Rav Papa says, "Hayman de kafte lechavre." If someone ties up his friend, va'ashkel leibitka demaya, and he allows the gush of the water to go on him, umeis, and he drowns, so he's chayiv.
Waterboarding.
What word? Is his friend, you said, or just the enemy?
A lot more than water.
No, waterboarding.
That's not
Yeah,
happening.
lots of
Waterboarding,
extreme
you don't kill,
waterboarding.
The term
Only the enemy.
the term chavre is used also by is used by animals as well. It just means the same kind. So like shor she'ola al gabi chaveira, it says an ox that goes up on his friend. It means the same type. So we're talking here another human. That could be. So my time, or else it was he did it for a joke. It was a bad joke. My time. What's the reason? Giri didehu da hanibe. It's his arrow. You see, by an arrow, you can say the same thing. You can say, look, I didn't do it. It was the arrow. We say, no, it was your arrow. So here also, the person can claim, I didn't do it. It was the water. He says, no, that's your arrow. That you did that water. Now, bahani mili, when does this work? That's b'kayach rishon. That's only if it was your water. But if it's b'kayach sheni, if it was that just the flow of the water, that's later. I'll explain how this works. Grama ba'almahu, then that's not considered you actually did it. That's a grama.
So if you put him in front of waves that you know come in the tide.
So Taisus goes through several cases here. Taisus says,
Leave him in peace.
Put him in front of his mother.
that if a person ties the person up and he doesn't move him, even if you see that there's a wave coming or there's water coming, that's not considered. He won't be chayiv. There's a case of mitzamtzim that the Gemara discusses. If someone like holds someone underwater, but in this case he won't be chayiv if the water's not there yet, and he just tied him. However, if the damage is there, then he would be chayiv. For example, if he ties him in the sun, and he doesn't move him, or he ties him and the water's there already. However, let's say he ties him up and he moves him there, then even though it's going to come, he'll still be chayiv. That's it compares it to fire. It's just like if you move someone's grains towards a fire, that would make you chayiv. So too, if the fire's coming to the grain, so too if you cause the fire to come to the grain, you would also be chayiv.
What if you just lift it open the window, the trees?
So if it's already, if you don't move the person, but the fire, the water is not there yet, so then
Clear a path almost.
So then you allow it to come. It could be you're exempt. Could be that case you're exempt. It's only if it's there already. Then finally he says over here.
Okay, but you're not chayav lisa, but I'm sure there's other for you.
Okay. Yosef Rav, Acheri de Rabbi, Acheri de Rabbi. Rav was sitting behind Rabbi. Rabbi kamei de Rabbi, and Rabbi is sitting in front of Rabbi. So Rabbi must have been in the front row, and Rav was behind him.
Describe the seating arrangements.
It's not frequent, but it happens.
Haggadah,
Huh?
the Haggadah, it's,
In the Haggadah we have.
who's sitting before who, right? Isn't that like a big thing?
Well, that's in the commentaries discussed. Over there it just says who was there.
But the order, what's
But in the order is significant.
Yeah.
So, look, Rav went to Bavel to study by Rabbi together with Reb Chia. Rav is much younger.
So Rabbi went to Bava?
No, Rabbi is in Eretz Yisrael. I'm sorry, Rav and Reb Chia left Bavel to go to Eretz Yisrael to learn by Rabbi. And Rav is related to Reb Chia because his mother, Rav's mother was Reb Chia's sister, and Rav's father was Reb Chia's brother. But it doesn't mean his father married his sister. There was a step sister there. So Reb Chia came from a second marriage where there was a previous sister from a different father. So that's how from the first marriage, Rav's father, his name was Evo, he was able to marry this girl that was totally not related to him. It wasn't his father's daughter, it wasn't his mother's daughter. It was his father's second wife's daughter. So then they had another child, Chia, Rav and the second this grandfather and the second wife. So it's his uncle from both sides. So Reb Chia takes Rav to Bavel, and then when Rav is to Eretz Yisrael, when Rav is ready to go back to Bavel, Reb Chia organizes smicha for Rav. That conversation with Rebbe, it says, "Can Rav Yaira? Can he, when he goes back to Bavel, can he paskin?" And Rebbe says Yaira. Yadin, he says Yadin. So that was that, and then he says Mata B'cheiros. He says no. It's a whole thing over there. Okay, so V'Yosef Rebbe v'Kamar. Now Rebbe's teaching, and Reb Chia is sitting in the front row. Rav's behind him, and he teaches this: Minayin l'shchita shu b'talish. From where do we know that shchita needs to be detached? The knife needs to be detached from the ground. Shenamar. Remember, that's Rebbe's opinion. Shenamar vayikach es ha'macheles l'shchit. He took the knife. Macheles is the knife to slaughter. This is talking about Avram. Takes the knife to slaughter Yitzchak. Amalei Rav Reb Chia my kamar. Rav tells from behind. He's talking in class. Rav from behind Reb Chia says, "What's he saying?" So Reb Chia Amalei Vav Diksiva Ufta Kamar. He's saying a vav that's written on wood. Now ufta is a wood that's not sanded. Probably has the bark on it also. So when you write a letter on wood that has a bark on it, it cracks it up because the bark. You can't write a straight letter like that because of all the cracks in the bark. So what Reb Chia is saying is that Rebbe's saying something that has cracks in its logic. Vav, he's saying this thing that it's. Don't take it there. So why? Because Reb Chia holds that talush is kosher. Rebbe holds talush is not. I'm sorry. The Rebbe, if it's attached to the ground, Rebbe holds that that's not a valid knife for shechita. You can't take the animal and rub it against the knife and shecht it. And Reb Chia holds that you can. So. Rebbe's asking this question: where do we see that you need a knife that's detached, that's talish? He says because Avram takes a knife. So Reb Chia says it's not a proof. He whispers to Rav. Rashi gives another shot that this either Rav heard what he's saying and he asked Reb Chia to explain it, or Rav didn't even hear what he was saying because that's why the explanation here is he was sitting in the back. He says, "What did he say? I didn't hear." All he hears is Vayikach Macheles. He says, "What's he referring to?" So he tells him what he's referring to, and he says it's not a good logic. V'hakraka amar. But he said a pasuk. He says, "Kraz rizusei d'Avram kamashmala." The pasuk is only telling me that Avram was working carefully. Rizusei is like with diligence. That means he took along a knife, even though maybe he could find one later. But he took along a knife just to make sure that he had one. But it doesn't mean that you need to have a knife.
Is Vav from Vayikach extra or it's good picture?
They call it a consecutive Vav. It's similar to like a comma and.
Avram was clearly married at this time, that he would have the foresight to remember to bring a knife just in case.
We'll get one over there.
Right.
Okay. Amar Rava. Rava says pshitali. Whenever an Amir says the following is obvious to me, what he wants to say is that he has a question. He starts off saying what is clear, so he sets the stage up for the question, but it means that there's a question coming. So pshitali, the following is obvious to me. Tolashul b'seif chibri. Let's say something was attached to the ground, he detached it from the ground, and then he reattached it. So le'inyan avodas kichav mavi tolish. Regarding idolatry, it's considered not attached. The Amar Mar, because the master said, what's that aleph? Hamishtachave l'bayis shaloi. If someone bows down to his house, He worships his house as an idol. So Asri, he makes it forbidden. Becomes has the laws of an idol, which you can't have benefits from. Now, how did he build his house? He took the rocks that used to be part of the ground, or maybe he took them off the ground. He chiseled them off, and then he builds his house. So he reattaches the rocks to the ground. Now, if you consider the house attached to the ground, they're gods on the mountains, and not the mountains as gods. That means that you can't make land avodah zarah. You can only make something that's constructed. That's that
Tree, a structure.
Yeah, a tree is going to be a question, but because that's if it was planted. We do have trees that are avodah zarah, so it's clear.
It was talush and it was mechuvah.
Right. But the actual rocks, for sure, the actual stone of the ground can't become forbidden because it becomes an idol. But something that was detached and then attached to the ground, that could be forbidden. So we see that talush or b'seif chibre, something that's, even though it's reattached, it's not considered attached. Linyan hechsher zroim tanaihi. Regarding making grain susceptible to tumah, that's a machlekes tanaim. If we're going to say something that's attached to the ground, that was reattached to the ground, is considered attached or not.
Isn't the house like that?
Yeah, but the house was referring to idolatry. In other words, we have different laws here. Regarding idolatry, we said it's not attached. Regarding making grain susceptible to tumah, we're going to say that it's a machlekes. Now, what you need to know here is that in order for something to become tamei, food to become tamei, it needs to get wet. But it needs to get wet in a way that you're satisfied that it got wet. So if it rains on your food and you never wanted it to rain on your food, so it's not considered wet. It's not considered that it's susceptible. You have to have, it rained on it, it's good. It got clean. If you're happy about it, then good. Otherwise, you said, it got wet. I never wanted that. So then it's not susceptible to tumah.
Sukkos.
Now,
Sukkos.
right. Now, if it rains and the water that's collected, not on the grain, is collected inside a vessel that you're happy about, that it gets collected in the vessel, then even if grain falls into that water or fruits fall into that water, there was a happiness, there was a satisfaction in the collection of it, but not, you didn't know about it, or you did, and there's no, even if you're not happy about the grains getting wet, but because it was collected in a vessel that you were happy about, so then the grains and fruits become susceptible to tumah. Now, if it's collected on the ground, then it won't become susceptible to tumah. If the grains, then, even if you're happy about it that it was collected on the, then you would need to know when the grain gets wet, actually. So there's basically, the grains need to get wet, and you need to be happy about it. There's an exception that if it was collected in a vessel and you were happy about it, then it's automatically, if grains fall into it, will automatically be susceptible. So Tanai, this is a machlokes, that collection of water, if it was something that was reattached to the ground, is that considered that you're satisfied about something that's in a vessel or not? If someone takes a plate, a bowl, a plate, and he turns it over the wall, why does he do that? B'shvil shetudach. He does it so that the wall should be able to get washed. So that the plate should get washed. Why? So in other words, he was satisfied. He puts it on the wall so the water should fall on the plate, and the plate should get washed. So now he's going to be happy about this water that's going on the plate. So hariza b'chiyutan. That water, if grain falls into that water was already something that he was satisfied about, and the grains become susceptible to tumah. B'shvil shalai yilaka kaisel. He puts the plate on the wall to protect the wall from getting wet, like a tarp or something. He doesn't want the wall to get wet. So then, eina b'chiyutan. It's not satisfactory. It's not considered that he's satisfied about the water, and it's not considered the grains that touch that water are unsusceptible to tumah. So far, we don't have anything regarding what we're looking for is if he's satisfied about something that's that's reattached to the ground. Is it considered attached or not? But the Gemara says, one second, there's a contradiction here. Hagufa kasha. Amrit b'shvil shetudach. You said so that the plate should get washed. Hareza b'chiyutan. That is considered that he's satisfied about it. Ha b'shvil sheyudach hakaisel. So that the wall should get washed. You didn't mention. But we could be medayak. We could deduce. We'll extrapolate from the fact that only if the plate gets washed is it considered that you're satisfied. But if the wall gets washed, ain't zebachita, then that's not good, because you're talking about the plate. Okay, so we know that if you wanted the wall to get washed, so then that's not considered satisfactory. Why? Because the wall is attached to the ground. V'hadar tani, but then it goes back and it says the second case. It returns and teaches b'shvil shlayilak hakaisel, so that the wall doesn't get wet. You don't want it to get ruined. Ain't bechita, and that water you're not satisfied about. So grains in that water is no good. But let's say you wanted the wall to get wet. So then that is considered that you are satisfied about that water. And that will make the grain susceptible to tumah. So if I look at the diuk from the Reisha, the beginning of it, I say that if it's attached to the ground, reattached to the ground, it's not considered it's considered if it's reattached to the ground, it's considered attached to the ground. It's not considered a vessel that you wanted to get wet. And if you look at the diak of the seifa, we say that it's considered detached. It's even though it's reattached to the ground, we consider that it's not attached to the ground, and it's going to be considered a vessel. The wall. The wall will be considered a vessel, and it's going to be considered that you wanted the vessel to get washed, the wall to get washed. So Amar Rabbi Lazar, and because of this, Rabbi Lazar says Tavra. This Mishnah needs to be divided in half, and Misha Shanazu, Le Shanazu. The one that taught the first case did not teach the second case. The one that taught the second case did not teach the first case, and which means that we have a machlekes. If a wall is considered part of the ground, something that was reattached to the ground is considered part of the ground. So that's what Rabbi said, that regarding Hachshizram, there's a machlekes. Rav Papa Amar, Rav Papa says, Kula Chatano. Rav Papa is famous for this. Rav Papa, he can make it into not machlekes. He resolves this. He says, Habakaisel Mara, Habakaisel Binyan. Depends what type of wall. If it's like a wall of a cave or it's a wall that was constructed. And this is what it's saying. If someone puts a plate over the wall so that the plate should get washed, that's the water he's satisfied about that, and that water will make grain susceptible to tumah. But if it's to wash the wall, so ein ze b'chiyutan.
What does it mean it should wash the wall?
Either it means that the water will drip down off this plate to go onto the wall. Maybe it means that he was collecting it in the plate to use it to wash the wall. But whatever it is, he was satisfied about this for the wall, because he wanted the water on the wall. Yeah. Rashi, it says that he puts the plate, the water was falling near the wall, and he puts the plate there so that it should be able to be brought to the wall.
Right. Rain barrel.
The rain barrel, right.
That's the water.
So it's for the purpose of the wall, and we're discussing here is the wall, part of the ground. So,
Why do you even need a diuk for that? If it's mechuber lakarka, it can never get tumah.
Oh, that's what we're discussing. We're not talking about is the wall tamei. We're talking about is he satisfied about this water. If he was satisfied about this collection of water, then if grain goes into this water, even if he doesn't know about the grain.
About the vessel or about the wall?
We're talking about the water. If the water was collected,
We're talking about the kli. If the kli is makabel tumah or not.
No, we're talking about grain getting wet. And then afterwards, once the grain gets wet, if someone tamei touches this grain, the grain becomes tamei.
Okay.
But there's a one detail that needs to be met. That means that it needs to be chiyutan. He has to be happy, nichale, that the grain got wet. Now there's an exception to that. Even if he's not nichale, that the grain got wet. But if the water was collected and he was happy about the collection of water, then even if he's not happy about the grain getting wet, it's already...
So is the water coming from the keli or from the wall? That would question. The water came from the rain, or it came from a stream, or something. And it hit the keli?
And it's hitting the keli. Now, if he wants it to hit the keli because he wants that water to be used to wash the wall, so then he's already satisfied about this water. Then if the grain goes into that water, the grain is susceptible to tumah. So we say that this would only be, that it's not b'chiyutan, to wash the wall, that's only b'kaisel mara. That's the Bameh Devar Mamura. Aval b'kaisel binyan, but if it was a wall that was constructed b'shvil shalei yilaka kaisel, and he's protecting the wall, he doesn't want it to get wet, hudeina b'chiyutan. Ha b'shvil sheyidach kaisel, but if the constructed wall, he wants it to get wet, harisa b'chiyutan. Then that's considered that he's satisfied. Okay. So that was, we started off saying that it's a machlokes. Comes along Rav Papa and says, actually, it doesn't have to be a machlokes. Rav Papa is a student of Rava. So Rava says that it's machlokes. Rav Papa says, actually, this one doesn't have to be a machlokes. Boy Rava. We said that whenever we say pshita, we have a question coming up. Here's the question. Boy Rava. Rava's question was, Talashal b'seif chivrei. It was detached, and then you attached it. Exactly the two cases that we said before. However, now we're discussing linyan shchita. Regarding shchita. What's the din? Sort of answered this before. Rashi points out that Rabbi doesn't accept the answer from before. And Taisus discusses this as well. So we're going to go through the discussion before again. So Tashima, come in here, come and listen. So let's say there's a rock that's protruding from the wall, or you have a reed that grew on its own naturally, and you use it to shecht. It's not valid. So okay, so is this a proof? This is, you have a kaisel and a wall. So you attach something to the wall, you attach the rock to the wall. So you see here that it's not valid. Why? Because it's considered attached to the ground. The Gemara says, we're dealing with, not that you built the wall. The wall was there always. It's the wall of a cave. Dekanami, and I'll prove it to you. Diktani dumi dekana ilamelav. Because what's the following case?